back on this Sunday afternoon that's kind of rainy and yucky. I just got back from a wake. Saw some people I haven't seen in a long time, so that was nice at least. Saw Kim Crowley for people that are from Franklin. Kim Resendes, I should say. My cousins. Nobody cares about that. So I wanted to talk today about a couple things. So first I wanted to start to actually make the book itself. So I thought we could work on the binding and the cover, and then I wanted to just talk a little bit about, like, why is it called Junk Journal? Because I kind of skipped over that the last couple videos. I'm trying to go in order of, you know, like starting from scratch for someone that's never actually made a junk journal before. So one of the things I should have started with is the way that I make junk journals, and so many people do now, it's not just me. I've kind of gotten away from what I understand the original intent to be, which is to use junk to create a journal. So like if you a purist, then you'd be using, instead of like using paper that you bought or paper that you downloaded, you'd be using things around the house to make the journal. So, and you'd be using old mail, like envelopes that you opened from mail. You'd use those for tucks or for envelopes that you put in the, that you decorate and you'd put in the books. You'd use cereal boxes for when you were making the bindings, which I won't, I think actually maybe I will do it so you guys can see. But that was the intent. Of course, it's just got so far away from that now. Everything is grander, and is grander a word? More grand? I don't know, whatever that word is. It's, you know, it's just kind of got away from that. Like every once in a while I try to use mail, like old mail. But I find I end up spending just as much time covering the old mail than if I just made my own envelope with new paper. So I don't know. I don't know what's the good thing, but that's why it's called Junk Journal. Initially, that's my understanding anyway. There's people that like get so mad because all people like me who are like downloading kits and, you know, buying new things and like buying stuff from Tim Holtz. And for people that know who Tim Holtz, you know, if you're a junk journal person, they get mad. But I don't know. Listen, I just do what I think feels good for me. I don't know what else. Everyone's going to do what they feel feels good for them. So I thought that's what we do today. And then the signatures that we made last time, we can sew them in. I don't know if we'll actually sew them in today. I'm like rambling today. I don't have like a good plan today. I just got back from the wake and I was like, maybe I can do this and get one out of the way while my daughter's at a birthday party, but I don't have a good plan. And I'm using a Santa Claus mug because that's the only clean mug that we have, because my daughter uses mugs all day long. So I'm using a Santa Claus mug. I don't know how this happened to my life. Oh, I'm going to say one personal thing because it bothers me so much. I'm doing online dating because just life, because of life. And so I posted, you have to post pictures yourself for those people that are looking that haven't done online dating. You post pictures of yourself. So I tried to post really realistic pictures of myself that like just really represent me. I didn't try to like do filters. I didn't try to do any of that stuff. And I did a picture of me wearing glasses. There was one picture of me wearing glasses because I do wear glasses. I most days wear contacts, but I need glasses to see. I am blind. So what's the big deal? I mean, doesn't like half the world wear glasses? I don't even, these are my reading glasses. So these aren't the glasses I had in the, but I mean, it's not like well, no, those kind of look goofy actually, but anyway. So I had a picture with glasses, and I had somebody email me and say something, like the whole thing just said, those glasses. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, he likes glasses. There's some people that are on there that text you. They text you very odd things, like very kind of weird out there things, at least in my experience. I thought, oh, he likes glasses. So I responded and I said, oh, haha, you like glasses. I do everything I can to not wear them because I can't stand wearing my glasses. And he responded, and the only thing it said is, that wasn't my point. I was like, he said that to be mean. He said that to say like, oh, those glasses, why would anyone post a picture with glasses? Or that picture looks awful with glasses. I wonder if I can splice in the, how would I do that? I don't really know how to do, well, I wish I could people add pictures to the videos, but I'm not that smart and I don't actually know how to do any of this vlogging. Anyway, it made me so mad because it's so rude. It's like, just don't say anything. If you don't like the picture, if you don't like me, if you don't like glasses. I mean, like, is it really so offensive to a man that a woman would wear glasses? It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, that's my personal story of the day. So frustrating. But let's just talk about the junk journals now that I've gone rogue. I've gone off script. So let me get some stuff. Let me get some supplies. I'll come back, put the camera down, and then we can work on our journals. I was thinking maybe in future, I don't know, what if we could do this live and people could work on journals with me? I don't know if anyone would do that, but I don't know, that might be kind of cool because then I could actually talk to people instead of just looking at the video. It's a little awkward. I feel awkward because I know only 6 people are looking at this when I post it. Oh my gosh, I'm such a nut. All right, so anyway, I'll put the camera down and then we'll get started with the bookbinding. Okay, so we've made the signatures at this point. I've shown you the papers, that difference between the different papers that you use. So now we're going to make the actual cover. So we're going to make this. So I had said in the introduction, there's multiple different materials you can use, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to use anything that you buy. You can use any kind of box, cereal box, or any kind of cardboard. Because I can't stand actually storing this stuff, I do tend to use material that you can purchase, which is this. This is cardboard you can purchase. It's an 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. It's called chipboard, and it's stronger than this cereal box. When you use the cereal box, you have to double it up so it adds some strength. When you purchase this, which is not crazy expensive, you only need 2 pieces per book. You just one piece will do for each, both the back and the front. But just because I wanted to show you that you don't have to always spend a ton of money, you know, you can cut corners. A regular old just cereal box will do. So when you're making a cover, what's most important is that you make the cover just slightly bigger than what your pages are. So based on the signatures that we made last time, which here's one signature, these signatures are 8.25 by 5.5 because they're 8.5 by 11 that are cut in half. So the biggest page, we have a bunch that are smaller because we put some sort of funky things in here, such as this. But the biggest page is 8.25 by 5.5. So we know we want the cover to be at least 8.25 by 5.5 so that it will cover all these pages. And you can do some trimming, you know, if there's some overhang for sure, but that's what we're looking at, roughly 8 3/4 by 5.5. I think I just gave one. I almost always, all the books that I've made so far, I do 8 3/4 by 5.5. So I cut 2 pieces of paper out. I did just want to show you how to, you know, not that you can't figure out how to cut, but you just want, you know, you can use a scorer. I'm sorry, you can use your cutter to first take the spine off, because we're going to use that as the spine of the book. So first, cut that off. Oh, I did a bad cutting job already. I'm an awful YouTuber. As I said, we want to do 5.5 or 8 3/4. So I'll put this to the 3/4 line. Cut it. Then do 5.5. Cut it. And then we can use this for the double up of the front cover. So the other piece that we'll need is the spine. And I have one. I cut one out already. What did I do with it? I have all my, I think this is it. Sorry, bear with me for a sec. Yeah, this is it. So the spine can be, you can make the book as thick as you want. So what I've tried all different thicknesses at this point. This is a 2-inch spine. I felt like the 2-inch spine is not big enough to hold the amount of stuff that I want in it. This is a 2.5-inch spine. I have made a spine that is up to 4 inches before, and what I found, I don't have it so I can't show you, but what I found is it becomes almost a square. I didn't visually like the way it looked. I think 2.5 inches for me personally is my sweet spot, but you can make it any, there's no rules. But so what you're going to need for the spine is either 2 of these pages that we just cut, or for the front and the back, or doubled up cereal box, so you can see that, and then a spine. The spine, again, depending on how big you wanted it, would be the same length as your cover, and then this is 2.5. As we said, you can do 3, you can do 3.5, whatever you like. So this is how they'll eventually look. I am going to, for purposes of this discussion, I'm going to glue this so they can have some time to dry. I'm just using, there's a, you know, everyone uses different glue. I use this tacky glue that's upside down because it just comes out so easy. I only use the one it's called Easy Always Ready or something to that effect. And I just, all over the side. You got to get close to the edge because you don't want the edges to stick up at all. And just put some in the middle. So I'm going to let this dry, and then I will come back. Just put it on. Put it under something so it can really adhere. Just press it all down. I'm going to let this dry and then I'll come back. So next we're going to cover, we're going to put decorative paper on both the front and the back cover. So I am, as I said before, I'm doing sort of like a botanical bird-ish slash book. And so I was looking for, what paper I wanted to use in the front. As everyone knows, I like to use vintage, so I want something that's kind of grungy like this. And I feel like the book I'm making kind of lends itself to a little bit shabby chic, kind of. So somewhere along those. So I picked this paper that I printed on just regular laser paper. When you print it, I did want to show that unless you have, there are some printers that print that bleed up the edges, so there is no white. Mine prints always a white page. I mean a white border. So I just cut those off, and so then I'm left with this. It doesn't matter if it's kind of yucky on the edges because we're going to cover it anyway. So to do that, we're going to basically wrap this paper around this first cover. So let me move this. So using similar, I'm sorry, I'm struggling. So you want like about 1/2 inch ultimately to be wrapped around. It makes it the easiest for you-ish. So put your paper upside down on your surface, put your book cover, place it on the paper so that there's about roughly 1/2 inch on each side, and then just cut down any excess. It 100% does not even need to be exact. You can see I'm not even measuring really. So cut that down. And then I'm gonna cut this down just a little bit too. Just makes it easier to like maneuver. And cut it. Okay. So now you have an appropriately sized piece of paper for decorative paper on the chipboard or cereal box cover that we had cut before. So the first thing you're going to do is, because when you wrap it, you want the edges to, lay nice, you have to cut them so that they don't meet up against each other. And to cut them, it's, again, you don't have to measure. Just cut at an angle to the point, and then do the same thing on the other side. So same thing, all points. And you want to go just, oops, what am I doing? You want to go just to the point, not over the point. I think that one I just did over the point. So do what I say, don't do what I do. And last corner. Okay. So now make sure you like how everything's kind of laid out. Mine looks good. And now we're gonna adhere book cover to the special paper. So again, using the same. Actually, what I'm gonna do for this to make sure it's as adhered as absolutely possible, I'm gonna use a glue stick to. Oh, thanks. I'm going to use a glue stick to make sure that every part of this surface has glue on it. The glue stick is running out. Hold on. Just to be double sure that everything is adhered to, oh goodness gracious, using glue stick all over. I am like the worst YouTuber ever. I'm not a YouTuber. Why am I referring to myself as a YouTuber? That's insane. I've taken this too far. Okay, so I put the glue stick all over, and then So because I don't trust the glue from the glue stick, I mean, it's definitely adheres, but sometimes it just doesn't, like I can even tell like there's spots that it didn't go. So I also put a bead of the tacky glue all around, because you really want this to be secure and you don't want it to lift at all. So I put a bead around, just kind of do like a squiggly just for fun. Oops. And then flip it over and put it in the center of the marks that you cut. Oops. I am my cockeyed. I should have cut this after I glued it, to be honest with you. I'm a silly, silly girl. And then take what they call, I mean, use your hand or use the back of your scissors or something, but something flat, and this is called a bone tool. And just press it really, really good all over to make sure that it's really adhering all over. This makes a really big difference. You'd be shocked. It's a really, it's a tool that if you don't have, it's worth picking up, because I use it all the time. Okay, so we have it adhered. We've cut it so that we can fold it easily. I do think I'm a little bit angled, which is unfortunate, but probably no one will notice once it's all together. So I'm gonna do the same thing for the, I'm gonna adhere the flaps the same way. I'm gonna put glue stick all over the flap. And I'm gonna do one side at a time, but I'm also gonna put a bead right at the, hopefully people can see it. I'm doing this right at where the paper meets the cover. And then I'm putting it around the edge as well. So once you do that, take your finger, because you want this to be as close as possible when you wrap it. You don't want there to be a gap between the paper and the cover. So once you put the glue on, take your finger and press right against the bottom of that cover. And as you're pressing, fold it over. And then take your bone folder, just to make double sure, and just rub it right against there. Make sure that it truly is adhered as close as possible to the bottom of that cover. I put too much glue on, so I got a lot of glue here. The glue won't much matter, because we're gonna cover the middle. Baby wipes are very handy in junk journaling. I use them a lot. I keep them right next to my work surface. Or paper towels, anything. You can just wipe. It doesn't matter if you get glue up here, because we're going to cover it, but it is nice just to make sure you don't have anything that you're going to be able to visually see down here, because you will still see this edge. So we're going to do the same thing for each flap. I'll see if I can speed this up like I see other people do. I don't have any idea how they do that, but I am a big girl, I can figure it out. So glue stick on. if I had cut those corners after I adhered the cover to the direct decorative paper. I have no idea why I did it the way I did, except that I get confused when I'm on camera. So just keep that in mind when you're doing it. Don't do what I just did. Adhere it first, then cut the corners. And when you do that, you won't have this gap. But eventually, we're gonna cover this front cover with paper, so you really won't see much of it. It should be fine. But again, I know there's people that are way more anal than me, and that will bug, which I get. I wish I was more precise. But okay, so this is either the front or the back. I usually just decide, it doesn't matter, but I just look to see which one came out better in terms of the placement of any of the designs that might be on the paper. So this is one. I'm gonna stop it. I'll come back. I'm gonna do exactly the same thing on the second cover. I don't want to bore you, so you have to watch it, and then I'll come back. All right, so now we have a front and a back cover. They have a decorative paper on them, and now we have to work on the spine, connecting the spine to the covers. So there's multiple materials that you can use to connect the spine to the covers. Like some of it literally is just tape, like literally masking tape or packing tape. But I find that I actually like bookbinding tape the best. I think it makes me feel like it's the most sturdy. And I actually like the way it looks. I think it makes it look professional. But that's totally preference. There's a lot of people that think it's too boring. They want, more of a fancy, decorative spine. I'll show you the difference. So this is bookbinding tape, brown bookbinding tape. And I think it looks like a regular book, so I kind of like it. I don't know, I like it, but I will show you on this Alice in Wonderland book. I did use bookbinding tape, but I ultimately ended up wrapping it in fabric, muslin fabric that was made to look older, and then with some decorations on the side. So this, although was bookbinding underneath this, I did ultimately end up covering it. This is the first time I've done that. So it's preference, I don't know, but I just find, I feel like it's most secure when I use bookbinding tape. So bookbinding tape comes in rolls like this. This is the one I use. I'm sure it's certainly not the only brand. I just get it on Amazon. It is kind of pricey, but you're only using, small strips for both. When deciding that there's different widths in bookbinding tape. This is 3-inch, this is 5-inch. I think I have a 4-inch too. So I want it to be somewhere, a 1/4 inch laying over the spine, because this is gonna adhere to the spine. You can see there's about a 1/2 inch on this one left over, and it's gonna wrap around the spine, and it's also gonna wrap on the edge of the cover. So a 1/2 inch is pretty good. I wouldn't go more than a 1/2 inch. You'll see what I mean when we put this together. But this in 3 inches, this is a 2.5 inch spine, remember, and this is a binding tape that's 3 inches wide. There's not as much, there's only a 1/4 inch of overhang. So there wouldn't be much overhang to wrap on this book. So this wouldn't be a good choice. I honestly had intended to use the white, just not thinking that I was going to do a 2.5. So I'm going to switch my plan and use brown. Actually, this is olive, which still matches. It still goes within the theme of Botanical. So I think we're good. So next, you're going to lay the bookbinding tape down. So lay it on your surface straight. Move your front and back covers. You need enough that it's going to wrap. You need enough it's going to wrap this way. You need enough that it's going to wrap this way. So roll it to about, let's see, roll it about, there's no exact, but let's say 3 to 4 inches on both sides, bigger than your cover. So once you have the tape down, you're going to very carefully put the first, well, actually, I'm sorry. Very carefully, you're going to take your spine. Let me make sure this is the right spine. Yeah. And you're going to put it exactly straight in the middle of the binding. You want it to be straight because you don't want wrinkles. Then you're going to take the one of the covers. So if you think about the fact that this is going to have to open and close, you can't put this cover directly next to the spine because you won't have enough flexibility to open and close. So take another piece of the chipboard, just using this just to measure. Put it exactly against that front, that spine cover, and you're measuring just, oops, hold on. It's got to go really flush against that spine because you want just an opening just big enough for the width of this chipboard. And then put this exactly, line it up so the edges exactly meet the spine. So you can see, I'm going to take this out now. You can see that the edges, these two pieces are exactly aligned, two pieces exactly aligned, and then there's a gap in the middle that will allow the book to be open and closed. So this is exactly what we want. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Make sure if you have a top and bottom, make sure you've done it right. I have many times not done it right, so just make sure that you don't adhere it wrong. Do the same thing, put this completely flush against the spine piece, just to measure, then take the cover, push it against that piece, line it up exactly with the front and the top and the bottom, and then remove this piece. Push it down, 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 down. Okay, so now using the same method that I talked about before, you want this to be as tight as possible when you wrap around. So just take your finger and sort of like press the other side of the book binding tape to make sure it's tight, and pull tight. And then straight, you want it to be straight, pull up and here. This will be covered, so it doesn't really much matter all that much anyway. You do want these to meet though. So if you haven't pulled enough to meet, just pull a little bit more. Just so you have enough slack. Just cutting this straight. Okay, same thing, pull so it's tight. Pressing to make sure. Line it up with the bottom tape so you try to get an even edge. It doesn't, again, matter if it's not exact, but you want it to be somewhat even. I think I'm going to be crooked. You have not very much, there's not a lot of play in this. I am going to redo this because I don't like the way that, darn it. I've never had such a big crease. It will be covered too, so it doesn't really matter, but it bugs me that it's there. take your bone folder, try to smooth out these creases, like these will come out easy. Just push hard. This you won't be able to see, but do the same thing. Push down so you make sure it's completely adhered. Make sure these edges, and then take the edge of your bone folder, and where there's that gap that we made, just push in on it. So you want it to be a crisp, clear line. Then do the same thing on the other side. Push in on it so you can see that clear line. See how nice and clean that looks on that side? It bends nice and easy. So super flexible because of that gap we made. All this yucky stuff that I did unintentionally will be covered, so it doesn't matter. But I'm annoyed that I did that. So next we are gonna cover the inside of this. But before I do that, often when you're making a book, you want a closure because they do get big. I'll show you. They do get, you know, chunky, and you want to be able to close them with something, whether it be like string, or that's sari ribbon, or like an elastic closure. It can be multiple things, but whatever you're going to use for a closure, this is the time to decide, because you're going to glue it in here before we adhere the front of the book cover down. So we're going to glue this strip, then glue this over it so it's nice and secure for the to close your book. So I'm going to come right back. I'm going to grab some ribbon. I think I'm going to use ribbon, and I will be right back. I think I've decided I'm going to use this kind of ribbon. It doesn't matter. You can use whatever ribbon you want. But this lays flat. It looks pretty. I think this is what I'm going to do. So you're going to make the ribbon as long as you need to have it lay flat at least halfway to 3/4 of the way from the middle of the books, from the spine, from the cover. So this is like halfway, this is 3/4, so somewhere in there. It doesn't have to be exact. And then you want enough slack, certainly, so that you can, when you have two, you have some ribbon on the front and you have some ribbon on the back, you want enough slack so that you can tie a bow. So again, not precise. I'm just going to cut it right here. It's plenty long enough, I'm sure. And then use that, what you just cut, to measure the other side. Again, there's really no precision needed. And then they're gonna adhere them down. So when adhering fabric or ribbon, often I use, and many people use, this is called Fabri-Tac. It adheres very well. It works very well with fabric. It's just messy. You have it's got a lot of give too, so if you put it down incorrectly, you do have some time to kind of maneuver it around. You want it to be in the middle. There's many people that like measure and put a mark. I, of course, don't, because I am lazy. But I just eyeball it. So put some of the glue down. You can use tacky glue too. It's not like you can't, but this just works. Okay, that took far too much time. So then just put the glue, Fabri-Tac, or whatever you're using, right up to the edge of the book. So make sure it's all, my Fabri-Tac is getting, it's drying, so it's not usually this goopy, to be honest with you, but I think the cover wasn't on good. So it's kind of yucky, but it'll work. Then turn it over, and in the middle, like I said, just glue it down. Doesn't have to be exact. And just smooth it down. So you do want it to, so let that dry. So then you just, the thing that does have to be, not exact, but you know, pretty close, is you want to make sure where you put the ribbon on the front, the other opposite cover, that it's lined up, you know, fairly nicely, you know, with the other side, which I think this is. Again, not exact. Just put some of this glue down. This is like 100%, that's not supposed to be that goopy, but this is drying Fabri-Tac. I'm gonna regret that piece right there for sure. Okay, so now they line up pretty well. So we're gonna let that dry. I want that to dry pretty well before we cover it. And then I will come back. Okay, now we're ready to cover the inside of the covers. So first you have to decide what kind of complementary paper you want to use. So something that obviously matches your theme, matches the outside, but you know, it's completely, it can be a printed piece of paper, it can be cardstock, it can be scrapbook paper, whatever. There's no right or wrong. This is just some scripting that I printed on laser printer paper. So nothing fancy, that I thought would look nice on the inside covers. So you'll have noticed when you look at certainly my junk journals, but so many junk journals, people just stress the edges of things, and I do the same. I think it really makes a huge difference. So this is Distress ink. You can use any kind of ink. This is by Ranger, Tim Holtz. And you take just a spongy tool that you can get at Michael's or any place online that sells craft supplies, and you just rub it against the edge of the paper, and you just can't, it really makes a huge difference, especially if you're going for the vintage look. But even if you're not, you don't have to use brown. You can use, if it's for, you know, just as an example, maybe it's a baby's, you know, baby girl's book, you can use pink. So it doesn't really make it look vintage, it just makes it look, you know, a pinker color. And this also will cover any imperfections. Like you could see I had a little tear there. So there's really no reason to not use this paper because of that tiny little tear, because when you ink up the edges, it just kind of blends and it all just looks old. And if you want, you can like make the edges or the paper, you know, slightly rub the ink around, just depending on what your preference is. You can go really crazy with inking it and grunging it up, but I'm not going to for this. So you can see the difference. I don't know if you can in the camera, but it really makes it look vintage. It makes it look just more defined, in my opinion, and less like you just printed it and cut it, which is exactly what I just did. So I'll do the other side quickly. Never fun to watch someone just ink the edges. I'll skip through this. So you can see this one I did a little bit more ink, but again, there's literally nothing has to be exact because it's supposed to be an older book. So it doesn't matter. I did make sure, probably no one else would notice, but when I cut these are the exact same pieces of paper that I cut down to the right size, and the right size that I cut is 4 3/4 by 8. So 4 3/4 by 8. And that gives you, as you can see, just an overhang that looks, I think, clean and crisp, and it goes right against this line. You could go over this line too, it's just totally up to you, but I usually go right up to the bookbinding line and then have like 1/2 inch-ish to 1/4 inch, somewhere around there, all along the inside paper. Same thing here. So now we're going to just adhere this down. There is going to be like a little gap, not a gap, a little bump here because of the ribbon that we put down. It doesn't really matter all that much because this will likely be decorated. Perhaps there's some people out there that wouldn't decorate it, but most of the time you're putting some decoration on the inside cover, so it covers it up and it doesn't really matter all that much. So using the same, using the same glue, tacky glue that we did before, I'm going to put it all along the edges. Make sure that it's right side up. It is. And then gently, evenly place it down. Take your bone folder or something flat and just press outward. Make sure you get all those corners so they lay flat. You don't want them to stick up, because if they stick up over time, it's just gonna rip eventually. So you really want those edges to be really adhered down nice. Okay, so that's one side down. We'll do the other side. Same exact process. So now you have, I'm going to show you a mistake that probably no one else will even notice, but it's a perfect example. Now you have a full cover. This is the front. You've used bookbinding for the spine. You've put a closure on. You've put the first layer of decoration on the inside of the front and back cover. And then I can show you that when I was doing the laying down the bookbinding tape earlier, and I said make sure that you're putting on the make sure you're putting in the top and the bottom of the covers aligned. The top is the top for both front and back. So you can see this, the flowers are going up, and you can flip it over and you can see this, the flowers are going down. No one else will notice. It doesn't matter. But if it had been a design that was much more noticeable in terms of the the top and the bottom, then I would have been in trouble. Especially because we will cover this up with multiple decorations, so it doesn't matter. But that's a really good lesson for you all to learn based on my inadequacy. So again, don't worry too much about this if this happens to you. This rarely happens, so of course it was just because I was on camera, so it probably won't, but it will be covered, and we will come back and start to decorate pages next time. So just to recap, you want bookbinding tape or other tape if you choose not to buy bookbinding tape, such as packing tape or even masking tape. You want either chipboard, that I will put the link below the video, or some cereal boxes, or it doesn't have to be cereal, any boxes that you have along the house. Instead of throwing them out, you can recycle them and use them for junk journal books, which is part of the whole junk journal. You're using things to recycle. Just make sure you double it up. It's going to be 2 pieces of cardboard doubled up, so it's got the strength that you want. Some tacky glue. If you're going to use ribbon for the closures, ribbon, distress ink. I use for almost always when I'm trying to make something look old, I use Vintage Photo, Tim Holtz Vintage Photo. Sometimes I use espresso, but most of the time I use the color Vintage Photo. Get your bone tool or something that's like straight edge that you can use to push down the paper to the glue. And I forgot one thing that I'll just do right now. Just like I did the edges, I inked up the edges of the paper, I also ink up a little bit more lightly, but I ink up the edges of the book too. Forgot to do that. I pretty much ink up the edge of everything because I like the way it looks. And don't forget the front too. Same thing on the back cover. And then this side as well. This is the most important side. So that is it for today. Like I said, next time we will start to decorate the pages and go from there. Thank you.